flat section, not very technical, just a couple corners, and then into, this 3-4 minute climb. It was like 3.5 minutes into a really fast descent. So the descent there was like corners and stuff, but it wasn't super technical. So I knew that descent was going to be super fast. That came into transition. So, it was a beach swim. I didn't really, I never have really many expectations going into the race. There's a lot of very strong athletes. The field was quite small, but the athletes that were there were, really good athletes. So.
Yep. Okay. Tell us about race starts. What happens?
So they have a new race starting policy, which I love because I know athletes and coaches who were basically, they would tell their athletes, or their athletes would, so in triathlon, a lot of times what happens is that they say, on your marks, beep, and people, because the beep comes so quickly, a lot of people just, when they say on their marks, they never stop moving. And I felt like that was cheating, because people wouldn't wait for the horn before they went. And so I just felt like it was getting worse and worse. We were seeing a lot more false starts. And so there's a new start policy in World Triathlon, which I loved, where now they just have you're in the hands of the starters. There's the heartbeat, which is just classic World Triathlon. And then there's silence for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then the gun or the horn. So it was a new start, and I thought it was a very fair, clean start. I haven't watched the race. I haven't watched the start, but Pat's nodding his head like it was. So kudos to them for doing that. And I haven't watched the race replay, but I, from my own eyes, knew that I had a very bad run-in. I felt like I was very far back, and even Pat said I was dead last running into the water. How far back did it look like I was?
15 meters. I mean, it was like a lot because everybody had been swimming and you were still running. I mean, you weren't running. You were kind of like
just standing still,
jogging or something.
I think, I hadn't raced for so many weeks. I don't know. I'm normally I do races around Boulder, so maybe I just wasn't in that race mindset, but I had a horrible start running. And I remember diving in and just everyone was so far in front, but I actually exited well. So I think I had a really good swim. And so I was very happy with that, considering the collarbone and how much time I had to take off. And then started the bike, and I was towards the end of that bike pack and really had to work to catch on. But basically everyone came together, and so everyone was together on the bike at the start. And then there was a couple laps that were harder. I think lap number 6 was super hard, and that's when a lot of people got dropped, and that was my fastest time up the hill as well. So I made all those selections on the bike, and it went from the full field, which was 29, to, I think you said, Pat, was there 17 at the end? So I think my bike, I would have probably gotten dropped last year. I think I've put a lot of work into that, and I am happy that I was able to stay focused that time and really ride to my ability. And then we started the run, and I thought I'd run well, but also my workouts hadn't really been going well. I think just looking at Training Peaks there, I took 6 or 7 weeks off of run workouts post Hamburg. And then when I did start doing workouts again, I kept making excuses. I'd have a workout and I'd do K repeats, for instance, which normally I can do at 3 minutes to 3:10, no problem. And I couldn't break 3:20, and I just kept saying, oh, I'm running on Davidson Mesa, or it was windy, or I had a hard bike. But I think the reality is I didn't really have enough time, I guess, for my run to get where I wanted it to be. And I think this race I actually finished and felt wow, that was actually, it felt like it almost was catapulting my run fitness. So I'm hoping to continue to improve that.
Okay, and then what's next for you?
I am going to do the grand final. It's in Spain in about 3 weeks, I think. And that'll be a good race. Everyone will be there, I think. It'll be a really high quality, deep field, which will be good.
Okay, and then I do want to spend a minute on, you got 6th place in Way High.
Yes.
And your Instagram post, people have said to me that they said, oh, Gwen seemed kind of bummed. And there was a lot of people that called me with how excited they were. So, maybe can you share why you should maybe be a little bit more excited, and then also why you can still be, hungry for more?
I think one of the reasons, as an athlete, at least for me personally, like I'm rarely satisfied and I always want more. And for me, sixth place is just, yes, it's the best I've done, right? And yes, I had this break where I had really not ideal training leading into the race. And so there's a lot of things that I can be proud of, and things that I worked on. And, just I think to even get to that start line, I think is something that I can hold my head up high about. And, getting there healthy, and I think is something that's, yeah, I should be very proud of. At the same time, sixth place isn't what I'm after. Like that, to me, that's not where I want to be. I want to be at the top. I want to be winning medals. And so that's what I'm working towards. And, I think there's also areas in the race that weren't great that I talked about, like my run-in, like that was clearly not the best. I know I'm better than that. And so when there's things in the race that you can do better, I think it's just hard to be super happy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like crying and really sad about this race or anything. It's just, I think there's areas to improve. And as an athlete, I'm always looking for ways to get better.
Okay. What will you do in this next 2 weeks to get better before Pontevedra or Malaga? Not Malaga. Torrelimos, Andalusia.
Got it the third time. Yeah. I think this race is going to be very different than Weihai in the fact that, Weihai was kind of more just like a steady effort. And Spain, I'll call it, is going to be, it's kind of more of like a classic world triathlon, U-turn, lots of stopping and starting throughout the race. So yeah, I'm going to work on transitions. Transitions is actually something I worked on once after my collarbone break, and it just didn't feel quite strong enough to work on it more. So yeah, like working on little things like that now that I feel like I'm fully healed. Today, Pat and I, we went out and made a little course that was, I would say, similar to the course that's going to be in Spain. And so like just doing those little things is what I'm going to be working on. And as well, I just think like consistent training, right? Like that's just going to help me. So these next 2 weeks, just getting in some solid work.
Cool. Separately, you're now ranked 9th in the world rankings. So I'm just thinking about that journey, right, in your comeback. And like I remember when you first put points on the board down in New Zealand, you were like 360th, and it was like, every time you'd have these big movements up. And so I remember, even just when you got on the first page, right, you were in the top 50. Like there's been these moments that are cool to reflect on how far you've actually come. Have you thought about that at all?
I think for me, it's more of just I can take a deep breath and not have to worry about getting on start lists. Like that's been hard for me in this comeback. It just not being, I think, trusted that I don't know how to say this, but basically like I wanted to be on those start lists and I couldn't, and I wasn't allowed, and I wasn't given those opportunities. And so I feel like now, yeah, if I'm ranked 9th, I'm pretty secure in being able to get into races. And that's something for me that's just like, I can just focus on training and racing. But yeah, it's something as well that I think I've never, in points in my career, like previously, never thought about it, never had to think about it. And I think that's, the place I want to be. And if I'm performing, that's the place that you end up being in if you're actually performing on race day. So yeah, just excited to be able to go to races that I want to go to without having to worry about it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts, or what did we miss?
I got a really cool tea set in Weihai. That was very cool. No, yeah, I mean, I think, I was, I think that course, when I used to do triathlon, there was more variety in courses like Auckland, Stockholm, Kitzbühel. I think of all these races that were a little bit different. Madrid, yes. And like all those races have gone away. And so to have Weihai, I think, I heard rumors that it would likely maybe happen next year. So yeah, I hope they keep it on the circuit just to have some sort of variety in the racing. I think it's exciting for the athletes and fans.
Yeah, and you had also mentioned too, just to give a special shout out to World Triathlon, like you said that the previews were super dialed.
It was amazing. I loved it. Yeah, they did a great job with everything. The previews, they actually closed down the roads, which is very unique. A lot of times for race previews, it's just like a motorcycle in the front, the group, a motorcycle in the back, but traffic is open, and so you can't really preview the course at speed or see things. And so yeah, we were able to actually ride the course, and I love that. I think it's hard for a lot of venues to do it, so it was nice that Way High was able to do that. Thanks everyone for following along, and leave comments below and I'll try to respond.